We're celebrating Memorial Day soon, and it's much more than just a holiday weekend. This morning, I visited with Mitchell. He's from northern Michigan. Had some questions about his food plots, and in the conversation, I learned that both he and his father were veterans. It reminded me of the tremendous sacrifice our veterans and their families have paid to keep America free. You know, unquestionably, we're the greatest nation on the planet, and the only reason we are is because of veterans and the sacrifice of their families. Join me this year. Take time and thank a veteran. Thank every veteran you see for the freedom we celebrate here in America.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops, also by Reconics, Trophy Rock, Eagle Seed, Nikon, Winchester, Lacrosse Footwear, Blood Sport Arrows, Flatwood Natives, Morel Targets, Non-Typical Wildlife Solutions, Hooks Custom Calls, Montana Decoy, Summit Tree Stands, Drake Non-Typical Clothing, House Lubricator, Genesis No-Till Drill, Yamaha, Fourth Arrow, Scent Crusher, Antler Extreme, iScope, Bone View, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
Last week we shared that Daniel and Clay had success on tagging a big tom right during the last couple of days of turkey season here in Missouri. But some other states stay open with turkey season much longer than Missouri. For example, Heath and Lindsey Martin just packed up their rig and headed to Kansas.
Well, good morning. We're back up here in Kansas. It's like the 5th of May or something like that. And it's actually a beautiful morning. It's been stormy and bad weather and windy for several days, and today's high pressure, sun shining, calm, clear, cool. It's in the 40s. But the turkeys really are not gobbling very much. I'm not sure why. It should be perfect weather.
The weather during the first morning of their hunt seemed perfect, but the toms, well, they were silent. And that happens sometimes, and no one can explain why. Based on the lack of gobbling that morning, Heath and Lindsey decided to move a redneck hay bale blind to an area they'd seen lots of turkeys using during the afternoons in the past. This location is just off the break of a hill and out of the wind.
The birds have been tight-lipped all day. They should have gobbled good today, but they didn't. And I'm not sure the reason why, but I guess if I did, I'd be the master turkey hunter. But anyway, we've moved the hay bale blind over to this area where we've just seen a lot of turkeys in the past just travel through here. They kind of travel through this little corridor right here. We've just seen them visually traveling through here. We're traveling back and forth, some on the property. So we're actually just gonna sit here this afternoon and see if we can't see a turkey, and if we have to, call him in. If not, maybe just let him walk right by the blind and get a shot at him, because they're not really doing much today unless they get fired up this evening. They really hadn't done anything to speak of earlier today. So.
They weren't in the blind long when they spotted a couple of hens. They had placed the GoPro perfectly to pick up the action. He said the hen spooked a fox squirrel that was barking at him from a distant tree, and all that commotion seemed to get everything stirred up. With live decoys and all the natural sounds, Heath decides not to call.
Well, we just have been here 10 minutes and the first hen came by, so maybe we made the right decision. She's by herself. Maybe we'll get a gobbler to come strolling through here, looking for her here at the well or something.
Just a few minutes later, he spots the movement, and it's a lone tom coming in silent.
Well, here he is. Finally got my second longbeard of the season here, so I'm tagged out in Kansas. You know, today should have been a perfect day for gobbling, but the birds just were pretty tight-lipped, really quiet, weren't doing much. So over the years, we've seen several turkeys crossing this spot, so just kind of on a hunch, we took a hay bale blind and moved it in here, and you can just kind of see up this pinch point right here. It's like, let's just sit here and see what happens. And lo and behold, just in a few minutes, we had a couple different hens come by, and we probably wasn't here a half hour, and this old longbird comes skulking up right through this pinch point like we've seen them before, just traveling up and down through here. And he came in here to, I don't know, 25, 30 yards at the most, and raised his head up in the pretty sunshine, and I figured that's close enough. So I pulled the trigger and put the hammer down. So I'm excited. Tagged out in Kansas.
Good job, Heath. That was a strategy perfectly executed. The next morning, his wife Lindsey's up to bat, and they're set up very close to some toms they'd roosted the evening before. Turns out they were set up a little closer to those toms than they thought, and one of them pitches off the roost and flies over their heads.
Where is he?
Lindsey can't turn far enough to get a shot, so they end up letting that tom walk off. They hear some other gobblers fired up in the distance, so they head down the ridge to try to get in the action. Just as they get to the edge of the timber, he spies a fan across the field. So they quickly sit down in the shade of a large tree and start to call. Heath makes just a couple of calls, and that tom is headed right in their direction. Wow, that tom covered some distance.
Lo and behold, even though this bird had a hen with him, Heath was able to call 2 or 3 times, and he came in on a string straight to us, worked all the way across this field. We were lucky enough that we were in the shade. He was in the sunlight, so he probably couldn't see us at all. And we had a plan that right when he hit the shade line, I was going to take him. And he hit that shade line, and Heath gave me the go-ahead, and I rolled him.
Great shot, Lindsey. I admire your discipline. Passing a difficult shot, continuing hunting, and tagging a tom. Congratulations to both Heath and Lindsey on another successful hunt. We enjoyed a lot of great turkey hunts here at the Proving Grounds this year due to great habitat. So naturally, when season ended, we turned our attention to planting summer food plots. As normal, we'll be planting about 90% of our food plots into Eagle Seeds 4-H soybeans. They've worked perfectly for us. Drought resistant, produce super high quality 4-H, and easy to control the weeds. In addition, they pump a huge amount of nitrogen into the ground because they stay green and productive longer than a normal production bean. That nitrogen is critical for the success of our cool season plots. Some people ask if it's okay to plant soybeans summer after summer in the same plot. The answer is we have plots here where we planted Eagle Seed 4-H soybeans in the same plot each summer for 14 years in a row. We get away with it because we have a great cover crop or different crop in the fall that breaks the rotation. There's a couple of reasons I've been planting soybeans for so many years, but a real graphic one is easy to prove to yourself. Simply go to QDMA's website and search for the Boone & Crockett Pope & Young record map. Put it on half your screen. Then go to NRCS's website and search for soybean production by county. Put those maps side by side and you'll see a strong relationship between antler size and soybean production. This is a brand new plot we just had cleared off. It was timbered just like that a few weeks ago. Timbered off so it's packed with dozers and pushing trees and just rock. We haven't built up any organic matter yet. And I'm thrilled that the Genesis is getting seed this far in the ground in this environment. Even though we've had a lot of rain here in the Ozarks without building that organic matter, it's just about powder dry. There's a little bit of moisture down deeper, but on top it's already powder dry. Without a no-till drill, we probably wouldn't have any germination. Russell, one of the contractors we use, came in with a track hoe and removed the trees off of this area. That was just a couple of months ago, so the process of that big track hoe riding around and trees falling and stacking them up, burning them and burying the stumps has really compacted this soil. It's so packed and dry, the only way we'd have success here is using a no-till drill. We don't want to disc this, it would just turn up more rocks. But by using a no-till drill, it floats over the larger rocks, puts the seed in the other places, gets it down to a little soil moisture, and I assume here in a week or two, we'll have a pretty stand of Eagle Seed beans. You can see a few weeds coming up where this area was just cleared. That's common. So once these beans get going, because we don't have a cover crop, it'll be necessary to use a light herbicide application to take these weeds out, let the beans grow, and this fall, we're coming here with a soil building cover crop to add organic matter to this area. It may surprise you that we're not using any fertilizer in these new plots. We're planting soybeans this summer. They're pretty tolerant of poor soil conditions, and they will pump in a lot of nitrogen into the soil. The crops we plant this fall are really good at recycling nutrients. They bring phosphorus, potassium, and other elements up from the deep, die, decompose on top of the surface, and make for better planting next year. A little water, air, and a plant, well, that does wonders for any piece of soil. Given the right crop rotation, we can get away without using any synthetic fertilizer, improve this area, clean some air, purify some water, and feed a bunch of deer at the same time. We're experimenting with some different combinations of cover crops. We've got the rye you see, a little thin here on the edge, and below it, Eagle Seeds clover. This is working out perfect. You can see on this rye, hasn't formed a seed head yet. Matter of fact, it's just pollinating, so it's not ready to crimp yet. If we crimped it at this stage, it would probably stand back up. And you see the blooms are getting pretty big on the clover. About the time these seed heads are mature and this rye would respond well to the steel buffalo or being crimped, this clover is going to be browning up most likely, or at least more susceptible to being damaged by the crimper coming over. We're drilled the soybeans in it. The clover will bounce back as soon as it rains, and it will actually grow under the beans. So we've got a cover crop keeping the weeds out from the beans. I couldn't be happier with this situation. Of course, the rye fed the deer when it was immature, and now that it's bolting, it's pulling a lot of the nitrogen that the clover and the previous crop of beans had put in the soil. The clover is now filling in between the rye, great food for deer, and keeping weeds at bay. So we're feeding deer and controlling weeds without using any herbicide. But I did get a .7 because I made a C in tennis. I at least showed up part-time for that class. And I stood there at the mailbox and I literally said to myself, I said, you know, I can my dad built houses. I can mulch melons and raise cows and build houses, which is a fine life. but I just knew I wanted to work with deer, or I can change my life. I can change everything I'm doing. And I did. And I had great mom, dad. They're still married, been married 67 years, live in Nixon now. And so never give up on your kids. Never. I don't care where they go, what they do. Never, ever give up on kids. Pray, pray, pray. Never give up on kids. I love learning and sharing information. And recently, I had a chance to share some information with folks right here in my home county at the Taney County Soil and Water District meeting. If you're a cow farmer, you're not really a cow farmer. You've been misled for 70 years. You're using cows to convert grass into dollars. You're a grass farmer, unless you're a food lot guy. If you've got a feed lot, which I'm not aware of many big feedlot operations here, you're a grass farmer. I presented some of these soil improvement techniques and shared results from right here at the Proving Grounds. Cows were never made to digest fescue, folks, just telling you the truth. I don't have a dime in the fight. They can gain a whole lot more weight on our native grasses, big blue stem, little blue stem, other stuff, way more weight. Not uncommon at all for cattle gain 3 to 4 pounds a day on native grasses. You will never get that on fescue, ever. Can't do it. If you'd like to see more of that presentation, simply go to GrowingDeer.tv and click on the Clips tab. One of the best ways to learn is get out and study some natural habitat. But for true wisdom, each day slow down and take time to be with the Creator and listen to what He's saying to you. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.